Welcome back to another video, everybody. Guess what we're talking about today? That's right, Emergency Act accountability. It's ongoing, and you want to know why? Because we're this close of someone actually being held accountable in Canadian politics for their wrongdoings. It's gonna be a heyday. Beer on me. Nope, I retract that. I retract that immediately. Digital beer on me, NFT beer on me. Welcome back, everybody, and let's push this right onto the algorithm. Let's say no to YouTube suppression. Like the video, comment down below what you think is going to be in the video, what your political views are. I read through the comments. I engage with the community, and subscribe if you're not already. Turn the bell notification on, because that's the best way to fight against YouTube suppression. And let's go. Let's watch a bunch of liberals not answer questions. That's part of the circus. Welcome to the circus. All right.
Thoughts?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Minister, for being here. Minister, you have just explained to us that you've had extensive contact with law enforcement officials leading up to the invocation of the Emergencies Act. And yet when my colleague, Mr. Fortin, asked the previous Minister, Freeland, about speaking with the police, she said that it would be very inappropriate for a cabinet minister to do so. Which is it?
Well, to be very clear, I was meeting on a regular basis. So I'd established a table of consultations through the three levels of government, a tripartite table with the City of Ottawa, including the mayor, with our provincial counterparts and my officials. And it was during a meeting with the mayor of Ottawa, talking about how we can assist the City of Ottawa in restoring order and restoring peace and safety to the City of Ottawa.
Okay, fair enough. So
I had the conversation with his
So I take it then Minister Freeland was mistaken in her statement. Let me get to another question for you, sir. Your government will undoubtedly assert cabinet conferences, which I'm sure you'll do for the documents that we've asked for. But as a president of the Queen's Privy Council, and will you release these conferences of the Queen's Privy Council?
Can you be specific on what conference you're referring to, sir?
We're talking to the documents that we've asked. This committee, as you know, has asked for all the documents to use to make the decisions on invoking the Emergencies Act. And we've had ministers here before, Lametti, Mendocino, who have made it very clear that there's invoking lawyer-client privilege, as well as cabinet conferences and in the release of those information. And I'm asking you, as the president of that Privy Council, whether you would consider releasing those conferences.
And Mr. Motz, I believe there are processes in place to determine, what documents should be and are appropriately.
So we all know that in America, right, invoking, I don't know which amendment it is, right, the 5th or something, where you get to, invoke your right to like silence, right? Let's just say it's the 5th Amendment. A lot of people do that in court, and that's not necessarily, and a lot of those people end up being innocent, right? And it's not a way of saying you're guilty by not talking. It's, you have the right to do that. Now, the issue, Mr. Speaker, right? The issue with this is when the government does that, that's sketchy. Why would the government, invoke basically the 5th Amendment, right? The right to not say anything. So in this case, it's not called that. It's what they said, lawyer-client privilege. But why? You're the government. What could you possibly have to hide?
Released. There are issues of lawyer-client privileges, for example. Those are areas that are well understood and respected, and I'm aware that the Canada Evidence Act, Section 38, also describes quite clearly how it would be determined how information related to other confidences could be made available. I respect those processes, Mr. Motz, and I respect the law.
So, Minister, when you were the chief of the Toronto Police Service during 2010, you had nearly 20,000 extra police officers at your disposal during that G20 summit. That support was provided to you, was funded and organized by the federal government. Now, here in Ottawa, we had former Police Chief Sully, who testified at committee. He was, and we heard in the media that he was asking the federal government for just 1,800 officers, about a tenth of what was provided to you in Toronto. So why didn't you focus on getting him those resources instead of conjuring up unprecedented use of extraordinary powers in the Emergencies Act?
Be clear, the planning around for the G20 in Toronto was a process that was actually led by the RCMP and that took place over several months and at considerable expense of the federal government at that time. All of those officers that you quoted, all of them, frankly, weren't available for public order in Toronto. But that was a planned event, as opposed to this was a spontaneous disruption of public order in Ottawa. There were, by the way, Mr. Mott, I think you're aware that there were officers.
You do know that this was planned weeks in advance in Ottawa Police Service and the officials of Ottawa.
If I may.
Yeah. So for those who aren't aware, protests are pre-planned. I believe a unlawful protest would somewhat be, now I could be mistaken, but it would somewhat be along the lines of not having like a permit, right? And the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa, they did. The police gave them a route and said, you go this way, that way, blah, 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 blah. It was all legal. Like, it was planned ahead. The city knew they were coming. The police officers knew they were coming. The government knew they were coming. Everybody knew they were coming on the back end of things, right? And then the media made it seem like, oh my God, the last minute thing, they just showed up out of thin air. And that's not the case at all. Now, here's the thing that people may not know about federal and provincial budgets. And as someone who was in the military for a good amount of time, I can tell you that you're given, let's just say, arbitrary number, $100,000. And you have to go through your $100,000 budget in X amount of time. Well, if you've gone through 90% of that time and you've only used, $40,000 of your budget, less than half, then you would want to, if you don't use your entire budget, you would lose a percentage of it the following year. So there's a big incentive to use that budget for whatever you can. Blow it off. Blow it away. Who cares on what you're buying or what you're spending it on? Get rid of that budget so that we can guarantee we get that same amount of budget next year. That seems to be the case with the police officers, right? He had an opportunity for 1,800 police officers and he had to blow through a huge budget. So he got 20,000. It's a little bit of a difference, don't you think?
We're
Mr.
all
Motz, I think you're
involved in
aware.
planning where they should be and where they should park.
I think you're aware that police
of that,
services from across Ontario and the RCMP and the OPP all had been providing, from the very outset of this event, police resources to the City of Ottawa to assist in maintaining a public order. But there clearly was a lack of success in actually resolving the issues that were taking place in this. They were unable to move those vehicles, and particularly at the border crossings, although the OPP and other police
Thank you,
services were at
Minister.
Windsor.
It's my question time. I believe, in fact, you did state on February 13th to the national media that you called the lack of enforcement in the nation's capital inexplicable. Now, you were at the center of discussions for invoking the Emergencies Act, and before the decision to declare this public order emergency, were you briefed that it was being proposed upon the recommendation of law enforcement?
I'm not aware of any recommendation from law enforcement, quite frankly. This was a decision of government. It's a decision of the government, and although I think quite appropriately we have a responsibility to consult with our officials, to consult with various jurisdictions and others who have authority as to the challenges. And as you'll recall, with the act,
if I'm hearing you correctly, then the law enforcement did not provide advice or recommendations to invoke the act, as Minister Mendocino has been telling the country for the last few months.
I appreciate the opportunity to provide clarity to your observation, if I may, Mr. Motz.
I'm sorry, Mr. Motz's time is up.
And that may come at a later time.
Mr. Naqvi?
Are you kidding me?
Time has come. Why don't you provide that clarity?
Thank you very much. The consultations I was having with law enforcement was with respect to the performance of their duties under the authorities that existed under the municipal bylaws, under provincial statutes, and under the criminal code. And they were clearly having difficulties in affecting the lawful purpose of restoring public order in the city of Ottawa and protecting the people of
That's the end of the clip. Oh my God. They tried to cut him off, bro. What? What? We all just watched the same thing. They tried to cut him off. They had him right there. And they tried to cut him off. That's ridiculous. Wow. He said it, dude. That's as clear as day. Arrest Mendiso, douche, whatever his name is, douche magoosh, squarehead, ear to ear, mouth. Arrest him. Oh my God, you freaking coward. That's ridiculous. The guy just said that one of the ex-chief of police members, chief of police, ain't no joke, bro. You gotta work your way up for years. You gotta put 25, 30 years minimum into being a police officer, work your way up the ranks to be a chief of police. And that's what he was. And he just said that they never requested anything from the local law enforcement. That's huge. We just heard it right there. Well, what are you waiting for? Go arrest them. Like, what more do they need, right? It's right there. The crime was committed. The cabinet has been infiltrated. Well, that's the end of the video. Thank you for making it this far. I know. You know what's coming next? If you haven't already, like and subscribe with post notifications on. And comment down below. What'd you think of the video? Let me know your thoughts. And I'll see you in the next one.
Sorry? I thought I was gonna make it through this, but I'm not. It hurts.
Emotional damage.